All right, what's up, everybody? This is your boy Jay coming at you live once again. And today I am like super zoomed in on my Instagram. I'm supposed to be a fish eye, whatever that means. But yeah, it's making my face look really round and stuff. What's going on, Kevin G? Good to have you, brother. So today, guys, without further ado, part two of thinking into achievements, which is the chapter on James Allen's As a Man Thinketh. The chapter named the chapter titled "The Thought Factor in Achievement." So I'm gonna pick up from where I left off yesterday, and good to have you, Monica. And it says the universe does not favor the greedy, the dishonest, the vicious, although on the mere surface it may sometimes appear to do so. It helps the honest, the magnanimous, the virtuous. All the great teachers of the ages have declared this in varying forms, and to prove and know it, a man has but to persist in making himself more and more virtuous by lifting up his thoughts. So he talks about a few different types of achievements, such as intellectual achievements, spiritual achievements, and he sums it up at the end of the day is achievement of whatever kind. Hi, Kath. Good to see you. Hi, Monica. Achievement of whatever kind is the crown of effort, the diadem of thought. By the aid of self-control, resolution, purity, righteousness, and well-directed thought, a man ascends. And by the aid of animality, indolence, impurity, corruption, hola Leti, ¿cómo estás? Buenísimo verte acá. And confusion of thought, a man descends. So check this out. With good thoughts and the right thoughts, and you being more virtuous and doing the best to be a force for the greater good of everyone, you rise. And you may rise to the high success in the world and even to lofty altitudes in the spiritual realm. But then again, you can just as quickly descend into weakness and wretchedness by allowing arrogant, selfish, and corrupt thoughts to take possession. Victories attained by right thought can only be maintained by watchfulness, though many give way when success is assured and rapidly fall into failure. Wow. How many of you can relate to this? How many of you can relate to the fact that you were like on a high, and you were doing great things for people, you were all about giving, loving, pouring love, and always putting your best foot forward, and just at this cusp of your victory, you get cocky, you get a little conceited, and you're like, oh, I got this, now I can coast to victory. And right at that moment, all your efforts start to unravel, and down into the downward spiral you go, and you get sucked back down the spiral, right? All achievements, whether in the business, intellectual, or spiritual world, are the result of definitely directed thought, are governed by the same law, and are of the same method. It doesn't matter which realm you want to be successful in, it's always the same type of directed thinking, it is the same laws, and it's the same method. And the only difference lies in the object of attainment. Do you want business success? Do you want intellectual heightened intellectual capabilities, or do you want spiritual enlightenment? It doesn't matter. All your achievements come through directed thought. It is by law, not by chance, not by luck. It is by law, and it is methodical. The only difference is what the object of the achievement, of the attainment that you want is. So it is up to you to choose and direct your focus upon it, right? Because definitely direct the thought, that's focus. How focused are you in regards to where you want to go? He who would accomplish little must sacrifice little. He who would achieve he who would achieve much must sacrifice much. He who would attain highly must sacrifice greatly. So over here, sacrifice, and sacrifice has been a taboo word for me for a very long time. It carried a lot of negative connotation from religion. I am Catholic, born Catholic. I'm still Catholic. I don't go to church anymore. I don't push religion, but I do push spirituality. But anyway, so I'm getting a little off track. But what am I talking about here? I'm talking about the fact that sacrifice, and I love that this chapter ends with the word sacrifice said many times, because sacrifice is not that you are giving up something to hurt you. Religiously, I have been indoctrinated to think that sacrifice is I take a loss for your behoovement. And that always made me feel very uncomfortable about sacrifice, even though people identified me as somebody that was willing to sacrifice for others. I was like, why should anybody ever have to sacrifice and take a loss for somebody else? And a few years ago, I remember reframing what sacrifice meant into actually sacrifice is you letting go of your ego, letting go of your old self. It's actually sacrifice means to sacrifice carries a deeper meaning when you think about what you are willing to drop about you so that you can move on onto your next phase with a lighter load, or in fact with no load, so you can just start to soar. And one of the examples, it's a bit of a silly example, but it's the closest thing that I can think of, is that about 4 years ago, I had an opportunity to be a class ambassador and to lead a group of young Korean entrepreneurs here in New York City. And what happened is that I actually had something else in mind for my future at that time, but that opportunity came, and I had to actually just let go of who I was at that moment, or who I was building myself up to be at that moment, drop it, and sacrifice that, and become who I needed to become right there on the spot to be able to lead a group of, it was about 50 people. And it just some people weeded themselves out, and it ended up being a group of about 30 people. And I needed to really, like, on the spot, sacrifice everything else and become a leader for a group of 30 ambitious entrepreneurs from all different backgrounds. And what that looked like for me is that I had to stop thinking about who I was or what I wanted, and it was always about, like, as a leader, what does my group need? What does my group want? And that is how I started to identify with leadership. And it wasn't like, oh, I'm your leader or anything like that. It was like, how can I support everybody around me so that by them rising, we all rise together? And that is the example that I wanted to share, and that's why I thought that sacrifice is so good. And he says it right here: if you sacrifice little, you don't go far. And the more you sacrifice, the more you let go of who you are right now, you're gonna be able to spring upward higher than you've ever done before. And yes, Catherine, I agree with you. And with that, guys, this is the end of this chapter, and I will see you tomorrow with the continuation of the book. I love you for being here with me, and I'll see you on the next one. It was your boy Jay. Peace out.